Yeah, I think this can definitely be revolutionary.
Ізабель Serrano, who is a professor of English language.
On the way usually is our own fear.
Technically, what attracts you to learning about the subconscious?
We end up having a lot of limitations, and all these limitations come from the mind. Absolutely.
Друзі, не забувайте підписуватись та ставити свої вподобайки. Також завжди в описі ви можете знайти Тараса пошту, щоб дізнатись, як потрапити до нього на безкоштовну консультацію. Вам просто потрібно написати йому «Привіт». Дякую за увагу.
And what I'll start is we'll do the Ukrainian portion first. So I'll introduce you to my Ukrainian community first, and then we'll conduct the interview in English. And I'll have subtitles underneath so that you can read about it, and it'll be on my Ukrainian channel. Okay?
Perfect.
So, сьогодні, дорогі мої друзі, я хочу представити, це є кандидат, доцент кафедри, кандидат наук, яка вчить англійську мову. Ми вчимо у підсвідомому стані, а тепер я хочу долучити людину, яка є професіонал у вивчанні мови. Вона закінчила магістратуру у лінгвістики і так само закінчила кандидат наук у лінгвістики, вчення мови і вже має понад 25 років практики вчити не тільки учнів, але вчителів, як викладати англійську мову. Вона зараз підключається до моєї групи, щоб ми вчили у підсвідомому стані і так само активно і професійно вели вас до удосконалення англійської мови, як ваша друга, третя чи четверта мова. Добре? То я хочу представити вас Ізабелею. Ізабела є професором англійської мови, вона так само спілкується на іспанській мові, і це інтерв'ю буде на англійській мові. So I'd like to present to you Ізабель Serrano, who is a professor of English language, and please tell my Ukrainian public a little bit about yourself. How much experience do you have in teaching others? And first of all, we were talking about the fact that you are a Fulbright scholar.
Програма імені Фулбрайта. Програма наукових обмінів Сполучених Штатів Америки спонсорується Державним департаментом та посідає чільне місце у системі міжнародної освіти.
You got your whole university paid for, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, and this is at Ball State University in Indiana, correct?
Yeah.
So please tell me about your academic career and why you have this passion about teaching English.
Yes, thank you, Tara, so much. I have been teaching English as a second language for a little over 25 years now. I started when I was really, really young because I was just passionate about English, which is my second language. I majored in teaching English as a second language. That's my bachelor's degree in, which I got in Venezuela, and I got a master's degree in linguistics and language teaching. During my bachelor's degree, I just fell in love with linguistics. All the while I was teaching, so I was learning and also practicing teaching the language, so I got a lot of experience. I started teaching in the modern language department at one of the largest state universities in Venezuela, and when it was time for me to get a doctorate, then I very fortunately got a Fulbright scholarship to study in the US. So I moved to the US to get my PhD in applied linguistics from Ball State University, as you said. And then I was also fortunate enough to teach at Ball State University. I was teaching English as a second language to international students. So we had students from all over, many Arabic speaking students, but we had students from Asia, from South America, from Europe, from so many different places. So it was a new experience for me, having speakers of different languages, and it was just fascinating really, finding that we could just be able to communicate in English, even at a low level for them.
So you completed this PhD, and it was in applied linguistics, meaning that you were there applying the skills and theory in teaching English, right?
That's right. Yeah.
when you did your PhD, was it also in applied linguistics, applying theories to how English is learned? Or what did you focus in on specifically?
Yeah, so the PhD is in English. So the official title is PhD in English with concentration in applied linguistics. That's because it was in the English department. But we had, there's an ESL center in the English department. So I was also teaching at the ESL center, and I was teaching just regular undergrad students who were getting an ESL certificate. So I was training them in methods and approaches to second language teaching, in English syntax, grammar, and sociolinguistics of the language. So once again, I was learning and also applying everything, teaching different kinds of students. So very interesting.
Good. And after you graduated your PhD, what did you do? Where did you work?
Yeah, I worked at Ball State at the ESL Center in the English department. So...
Курси розмовної англійської мови ESL – методика, яка дозволяє в короткі терміни почати спілкування іноземною мовою.
So I was teaching English as a second language to international students.
And for how many years did you do that?
For a couple years, and then I decided I wanted to just work on my own. So I decided to resign, travel the world, meet new people, and just start teaching online.
Okay, so now you're teaching online, and you're also developing curriculum for teachers of English as a second language, correct?
That's right, yes. So I work for different companies around the world, institutions that teach English as a second language. So I create curriculum for them, testing. I do a lot of language testing for different companies and institutions. And then I also teach by myself. So I create my own programs. I have so many years of experience creating curriculum, materials, activities, assessments. So I like to offer that too on my own.
Good. And lastly is, you're also interested in this idea of the subconscious and a bit of a spiritual journey yourself. First of all, in terms of subconscious learning, technically, what attracts you to learning about the subconscious and the way that we learn languages? I've already conducted 2 classes, successful classes in learning in the subconscious, and I'm going to be incorporating Isabella in our 3rd class. So we're gathering students for our 3rd class in learning. So what attracted you to the subconscious, and why do you think this is a valid way of learning English?
Yeah, I think this can definitely be revolutionary. One of the things, I've worked mostly with adults in my teaching career, although I've also taught children. So what is the basic difference? For us adults, we end up having a lot of limitations, and all these limitations come from the mind. Absolutely. Yeah. So we have a lot of fear of not knowing, what to say, fear of having people make fun of us because we're not speaking right. So there's a lot of blocks that we can have when we are learning a second language. One thing you need to understand is that language is completely tied to identity. So the language that we speak becomes our identity. So when I try to learn a second language, there's a lot of things that are involved in learning a language, not just learning rules and words. So if my identity is tied to the language I use, when I start learning a new language, it's like I'm losing my own identity and gaining a new one, which can be scary a little bit in a way. And then when we start learning so many rules, grammar rules, words, so many things we need to memorize to be able to use the language, what comes on the way usually is our own fear, our own limitations, our mind. But this is the conscious mind. That's why I'm so interested in digging into the subconscious, because if we are able to break all these limitations that our adult human brain will have when it comes to speaking a second language, we can learn to be so comfortable in this new language, so relaxed that just using the language will be much easier.
Well, thank you, Isabella. And we will continue our interview process with more information and specifically more lessons from Isabel with respect to learning English as a second language. Thank you very much.
Thank you.